we've talked a lot about social media channels and platforms that are out there, the advantages and disadvantages of using social, but let's talk about strategic uses specifically of social media for a brand. So there are several ways that you can use social for your brand or your business, and they're all here in this graphic. What ones do you use for your brand? What might you be able to use? Let's take a look at each of them in turn. So first we have communication and outreach, and here's an example from American Airlines where they have used Twitter to issue a travel notice, right, because of a tropical storm. They can, put notifications out about, different things happening around the globe that might be affecting flights. And you notice that their logo here in terms of outreach is the rainbow. This was grabbed right after same-sex marriage was legalized in the United States. So you see a lot of brands doing that for outreach to that audience and supporting that effort. So social can be used in that way for that, just getting messages out there, getting information out to your followers. They can then retweet it to their followers or share it on Facebook, whatever that might be. And also outreach and reaching out to various different communities or audiences. Here we have community management. So you may want to consider having a social network community manager that's engaging, watching the community, making sure that what the conversation is, what the sentiment is. But here's an example from the New York Police Department. Do you have a photo with a member of the NYPD? Tweet us and tag it, and it may be featured on Facebook. So really engaging again with that community and the actual community, in the world, in the physical community is something that you can do in social media, right? So blending that sort of online and real life, those two worlds, is something that brands, I think, have had a lot of success with. This is a little trickier. You want to be careful in using social for customer service. You have to make sure, first of all, that you're going to be able to reply quickly. People are much more likely to go on social with a bad customer service issue than, with just, gee, I love this and this went really well, right? So you have to be prepared for that. But here's an example of, where is my parcel? Here, let us know your thing, and we're happy to help, et cetera, et cetera. And and we'll talk about protocols as well, but you want to think about when to take that conversation off of the social media and either call that person or have them email or go to your website or something like that, because there are things that you don't necessarily want in the public sphere in terms of information. So this is an interesting case in reputation management. There had been a report that Taco Bell's meat was not really beef, and it blew up in the social media, and people were all over it. So this is an example of a tweet, a Twitter feed from Taco Bell, and also then the social and the offline, they ran a print ad. So basically, Taco Bell was sued in a class action lawsuit for saying that they had beef in their tacos and in their other food, and then the consumers were saying, well, this wasn't really beef. They sued, and all of this was playing out in social media. Taco Bell actually did a really good job of managing that as best they could, and then had the beef tested, and it actually was all beef. So they ran this print ad, thank you for suing us, and talked about the beef and went in social and controlled that conversation really well. So there are other examples of where this has happened and brands reacting and making sure that their crisis communications protocols are in order, and that's very, very important. So you can go in and not control the conversation, but contribute and hopefully help with facts and curtail that reputation damage. Social can be used for advertising and awareness. It can be used in brand awareness campaigns as with other digital channels. Here's a Twitter example. So if you go into your Twitter feed, sometimes there are sponsored messages right in the feed, as you see here on the left, and then sometimes in the who to follow, brands will sponsor that to try to get more followers, and those also are denoted with promoted or paid advertising. In Twitter, it's not as obvious sometimes which are promoted and which aren't. It's not as sort of in your face in terms of what they use, these little symbols. In some of the other ones, it's very, very clear. So again, you want to make sure that it's in your brand voice, but also make sure that it's authentic especially if you're in the feed. Make sure you're providing useful or entertaining information. Social can be used for sales and lead generation. So you can, encourage through social media people to visit your site. Then, you're interacting with them there. You can get them to sign up for your newsletter or whatever it might be, and turn those into actual leads and then eventually to customers. So as a traffic driver to your site, into your pipeline, social plays a great role here. In search engine optimization, we can use social. So here, this screenshot of, I just searched for Snapple. You can see that the results are really, especially in the first page, dominated by Snapple's messaging. So there's their official site, their Facebook, the Wikipedia, on down, and if we scroll, then you get, the Twitter feed and that sort of thing. So they've dominated that whole entire first screen of results by making sure that their social media pages are showing up in that search query result. Insights and research, right? We can use social on the back end. I talked a little bit about when you're doing things in social media, making sure you're going to the YouTube analytics tool or the Facebook analytics tool and seeing how your things are performing. So here I've got the College of Media at Illinois. That's one of the pages that I help manage. Our insights, which aren't super great this week, but it's summer. The students are gone right now. So looking at what posts are doing well in terms of viewing, clicking, interacting, sharing, liking, things like that, our traffic, our likes, our engagement over time. So you can do this. You can also use social media as a tool to find out what sentiment is out there about your brand. So social listening tools, and really just, going into social platforms, searching for different hashtags about your brand, or seeing what people are interested in right now, even, on sort of a macro insights, looking at, what your consumers are consuming in terms of social media, what they're sharing, what they're passionate about. We can use these tools, and they're free to use, to get insights about lots of different things, from our campaigns to our brand to sort of the popular culture at large.